Hello and welcome to the 38th episode of the Python tutorial series. If you have followed my tutorials carefully up until now, you should be able to complete many different tasks in Python. However, what if we want Python to interact with external files? Well, soon I will teach you how to read and write large data files such as Excel and CSV files. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those episodes. Today, however, I will show you how to read and write text files. These can be very useful for recording results, as well as for logging any error messages which would otherwise disappear as soon as you close the Python interface console. So, without any further ado, let's get started. First, let's look at how to write a file. We can do it easily by using this example code. In this case, we have our file, which is the name of the Python variable which we will use to identify the file being written. Then we have the open command, followed by the name of the file we want to create and the letter W. What this does is specify that we want to write something to this file, as opposed to reading from it. Then we have the write command itself, followed by the text we want to write into our file. Finally, we have the close command, which, as its name suggests, closes the file, confirming that we no longer want to edit it. So let's recap. In the first line, we are actually creating our file. In the second line, we are writing the information to our file, and in the third line, we are closing it. Now, let's run the code and check out the file we have generated. We can do this as usual by pressing the F5 key, and there you have it. We have now created a text file containing the words "Hello World." I'm sure some of you may be asking yourselves, where was the file saved? Well, the answer is actually quite easy. The file was saved in the same directory, or in other words, in the same place, where your Python file is saved. So let's take this example. The Python file for this video is saved here. So the text file has also been automatically saved in the same location. But if, for example, I wanted to save it under this subfolder called example files, all I'd have to do is return to the code, and then I would write the directory of where my file should go. So in this case, I would write example files / new text file, let's change name and say new text file 2.txt. And now when I run the code, as you can see, the file has not appeared where the code is saved like before. But instead, if we open the examples file folder, you can see that the file has been stored inside the folder just like we wanted. Before we move on, I should also remind you that when writing a file in this way, if you choose a name which has already been used for an existing file in the same directory, the code will automatically overwrite the old file with the new one. So make sure to avoid overwriting any important files you may have saved on your machine. Now though, let's move on to reading text files by attempting to read those we have just created. It's actually really easy and only requires the following code. This, as you can see, is very similar to the code we used to write our file, with the only differences being that the special command is now an R, to represent the fact that we now want to read the file. And then we have the content variable, which is simply a Python variable that we use to memorize whatever is written in our file, such that we can use it later in our code. In our case, we are simply taking our variable and printing it on the screen. So if we run our code by pressing the F5 key, we can see that on the right-hand side, it now correctly prints the words "Hello World," which are those we wrote earlier in the text file. With that, we have come to the end of today's episode. Make sure to check out next week's video, where we will discover how to rename and delete unwanted files. Also, don't forget to check out my Python tutorials and coding challenges, which you can find by clicking on the links in the top right-hand corner of your screen and in the video description. Finally, please remember to leave a like, share this video, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel and join the Coding Specs community. As always, I look forward to seeing you next week for a new video. And until then, happy coding!